A couple of weeks ago, Boox announced the Note Air 3, which is the black and white sibling of the Note Air 3C and the successor of the Note Air 2 Plus. I bought it right after the announcement and just got it together with the Tab Ultra C Pro, which I'll do a separate first impressions video soon. Like and subscribe to not miss it. But let's first unbox the Note Air 3 and get a first impression of this new e-ink tablet with Android 12. A quick glance at the specs on the box confirms what we already know. But just as a reminder, it has a 10.3-inch e-ink Carta screen with a color temperature adjustable front light. With a resolution of 227 ppi, it's the same as the Note Air 2 Plus, which, to be honest, was a bit of a disappointment when I first heard about it. After all, the Kindle Scribe has had a 300 ppi screen for over a year now, and I fully expected Boox to release the Note Air 3 with a similar screen. It also got an octa-core CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, which is expandable with a microSD card, and there's a microphone and stereo speakers. What came a bit unexpected was the lack of the Boox Super Refresh technology. If you haven't heard about that before, it's a technology that Boox is using to speed up the refresh rate of the otherwise slow e-ink screen. With that, even fast-paced Android apps and videos work pretty well, but it uses a lot of energy, even if you don't actively use one of the faster modes, which is why the Boox tab devices come with these huge batteries. So back to topic. I think it was the right choice to not implement that tech here, because with the battery size of 3700 milliamps, it's already reducing battery life on the Note Air 3C too much in my opinion. So I'm glad they didn't implement it here. I just don't get the logic behind it, why not putting it in here, but implementing it with the 3C. Okay, so enough of that, let's open the box. Here's the tablet itself, which right away feels solid, which of course is not a surprise, as the Note Air series always had a nice build quality, and this one uses the same casing as the Note Air 3C, which did pretty well in my full review. Find the link in the description below. Besides the tablet, we get the Boox Pen Plus, which is the cheaper pen option Boox is offering. Other than that, there's a USB-C cable and a couple of warranty and quick guide papers in here as well. Okay, so here's the tablet. As I said, it feels nice and sturdy, doesn't creak or crack when applying a little force. Compared to the Note Air 2 Plus, it's a tiny bit smaller, but feels very similar holding it in the hand thanks to the rounded edges and corners. Boox officially lists the Note Air 3 with a weight of 450 grams, which I still find curious because that's 20 grams more than the Note Air 3C, at least when going by the official specs. The weight difference is curious because the Note Air 3C has a Kaleido 3 display, which is essentially an e-ink Carta display with an additional RGB filter on top of it. So at least from my understanding of those two screens, there shouldn't be a 10 to 20 grams weight difference. I speculated that it might have something to do with the front glass, but going by the looks of it, it seems to be a very similar setup than on the Note Air 3C. So there's a screen protector on there for a more paper-like writing feel, and it's not the same scratch-resistant front glass as we've seen on the Boox Tab series. And yes, it feels essentially the same as on the Note Air 3C. But let's get back to topic and see how much the Note Air 3C actually weighs. And again, it's off by 15 grams, which puts it at 465 grams. Which at this point isn't really a surprise anymore, since most of the Boox tablets I've tested in the past year show similar inaccuracies in the official specs. Still disappointing because as a buyer, I want to get reliable info beforehand. Having a look around the device, we have the USB-C port right here on the side. The power button is now located at the top, which is a very welcome change. It's now also flat because it has a fingerprint reader integrated, and that brings two improvements. For one, I don't feel it on my hand when holding the tablet, and second, it doesn't get accidentally triggered when standing up the tablet on the desk like that. Here are also the stereo speakers and the microphone. And the microSD card slot is also here. As always, the pen is attachable to the side of the tablet and is held in place magnetically. That already worked far better on the Note Air 3C compared to the Note Air 2 Plus, and seems to be the same here on the black and white Note Air 3, but I checked it out when doing the full review in more detail. Let's turn it on. The first setup is working as expected. Let's click right through everything to get to the home screen. And here we are. That's a typical Boox user interface, which we already knew from the Note Air 2 Plus. While I prefer the more tablet-like user interface of the Boox Tab series, as it gives a bit more flexibility, one still has to appreciate how well Boox has optimized Android for the e-ink screen nonetheless. So the Note Air 3 is no exception here. Quickly checking out the pen latency in the note-taking app, which looks fine, except for this slight jitter here, which seems to be reproducible. Yeah, I'll check that out in my review in more detail. But based on how it feels and what the latest Boox tablets have been offering, it's most likely around the 20 milliseconds mark again. Pressure sensitivity is also looking quite good, but feels a bit different to the Note Air 3C. So again, I will check that out in the full review a bit more. Let's also quickly check out the front light, which, as I mentioned in the beginning, is color temperature adjustable. Looking at it briefly, it looks pretty even, but I can see a slight brightness gradient, which honestly was to be expected. But again, I will check that out in the full review even more. The weird shadow I mentioned in the Note Air 3C review is missing on this one. At least I can see it now. So that's nice. And even though the Boox Super Refresh technology is missing, you still have options for different ink modes. Let's see how the fastest mode performs with a YouTube video real quick. Yes, you can see that the fastest mode here is slower than with the Boox Super Refresh technology on other Boox devices. And there is more ghosting going on, but honestly, it still seems to be usable for fast-paced apps. But I'll also talk about that in more detail in my full review. So all in all, this looks like a worthy addition to the Boox e-ink tablet lineup. But at first glance, it doesn't really look like it's going to be a sensible upgrade if you have a working Boox Note Air 2 Plus already. But I'll answer that question in a separate comparison video in the next couple of weeks. That's it for now. Thanks for your time watching. Like and subscribe to not miss my full review, and see you in the next one.